Hello and welcome to another Digital Dimensions CAD-cast on what's new for SOLIDWORks 2013. Today I'm going to be going over what's new in the CircuitWorks add-in. My name is Maurice Cherian and I'm your host. We'll go ahead and get started with the slides. There's been a lot of good enhancements added for CircuitWorks. You get a higher level of support with ProStep, IDF, and PADS files. And you can see a lot better representation of your files, including adding layers, traces, pads, filled areas, vias. Layer properties is all new, has been added, and you can see the layers in the board when it's being built in SOLIDWORks. Via properties and filtering of vias, which are vertical through-hole paths, have been added to this release of CircuitWorks. And there's also a setting that you can show just the top and bottom conductive layers or show all of them. When you first open up a file in CircuitWorks, you'll see right away the list of items that you can see has been greatly enhanced. You can see now it's added layers, traces, pads, filled areas, and also vias, which are the vertical through-hole paths. So there's been a lot added to this list. I'm going to go ahead and show you this in SOLIDWORks. So I've already added the CircuitWorks add-in to SOLIDWORks, but if you ever wanted to add it in, it is a premium add-in. It's on the top of the list here. So if you have SOLIDWORks Premium, you do have it available to you. Since I've already added it in, I'll just go ahead and open up a file. This file is going to be a pads.asc format. And you can see IDF, pads, there's other formats, IDF. The ProStep.idx format was added in 2012. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this pads file. Open up this pads. And here is the CircuitWorks file viewer. This is the CircuitWorks file viewer. So if you've never seen this before, it shows all the different items here on the left. You can preview, you can look at the top and bottom. This was all available before in previous releases. But what hasn't been available before are things like the layers. So here's the layers. You can see here's traces, pads, vias, filled areas. So before I get into the layers, I want to go into some of the other items. So for example, here's the traces. So this is the traces on the bottom. Here's the traces on the top. These are the copper pads used for surface mounted components. Here's vias. These are the through-hole paths. Here's filled areas. Filled areas show highlighted in red here. So you can see we have 3 different filled areas here. And these are different than the component keep-out area here. Component keep-out area was already available. The filled area is new. And again, you can see it's different items that show which areas are going to be filled in with other components. I'm going to go back to the slides. So one of the big enhancements is the layer functionality that's been added to 2013 of CircuitWorks. This was not available before. You can see all the different layers, and it shows the type, the start height, the end height, and the thickness. It shows if it's a conductor or a dielectric. So let me go ahead and show you that in CircuitWorks. Now the layers, in this case there happens to be 7 layers here, and you can hide them and show them. And you can see there's also these properties now. This is all new information that wasn't available before. So this shows this is the top of the board, this is the bottom of the board, and as you go from the start height to the top, this is going to be the overall thickness, 0.787. So it shows the start, the end height, and the thickness. Now usually people look at this one layer at a time. So again, start height, end height, thickness, and you can see here's the different types, dielectric or conductor. So this information now is all new and available to you, and you'll see some of that when I build the model in SOLIDWORks. I'll go back to the slides. Some of the items that have been added do have some filtering capability. In particular, VIA has the VIAs have the properties that are available to be edited directly. Also, you can filter by size on the via diameter. So under tools you have filtering capabilities, and some of these do have the ability to filter by size. Traces do not have that yet. Pads have some filtering capability, more by type than by size right now. But if I go to vias, I can filter by the size here. So I can filter by size. So if I go into vias, and here are the vias, I'll go to the first one here and go to the properties. And now I can go to the via diameter and I can change that value. And I'll change a couple of these. And now when I go to the vias, now you can see when I go back, I can filter these out. And you can see now I just filtered out the first two by size here, going under 0.95. So I can filter these out. And when I go to the preview, I can actually look at the filtered items here. They do show what's been filtered out in the graphics area here too. So really where the magic happens now is when I actually build the model. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the SOLIDWORks file. And before I create the file, I wanted to show one of the new settings. So one of the new settings has to do with the conductive layers. So there's multiple layers on this particular example. So under CircuitWorks, there are some settings that you can change how many of the layers show up. You can just show the top and the bottom layers, which will process the information faster, or you can show all the layers and get more information, but it will take a little bit more time to process. So let me show you where that setting is. To get to the settings, one way to get to them is to click on the icon here and go to Options. I'm going to go to SOLIDWORks Import, and right now I have the settings set to complete, and I'll show you what it looks like with that button changed over to the other option. So I'm going to go ahead and show it with all the layers being shown and processed here in SOLIDWORks. Now the magic happens when you build the model. Let me go ahead and build the model. It's telling me there's a couple files that have zero height that need to be fixed. This was already available in the other previous releases of CircuitWorks. But just to show, if I go to properties here, I'll just change the height on these two by going into the properties and making the height go up to 1. Now when I build the model, you don't want to have anything open in SOLIDWORks. It's going to tell me how many pads and traces it's going to build. This will take a few moments to build, and you'll have a nice detailed circuit board with the components, and now it'll have the traces and the pads. It'll look a lot more realistic than previous versions. I can take a look at what it created inside of SOLIDWORks. It's a very nice, accurate, fully detailed assembly. You can see the geometry here. Some of these components were detailed and updated in the component library to show a more realistic view or give it a more realistic look to some of these components. You can see a few of the components still have that boxy shape, so those have not been updated, showing some of the pins and leads. But you can see it shows the pads, it shows the traces on here, and it also shows those vias. Let's take a look at the other side of the model here. So again, you can see those traces on there and the copper pads. So a very realistic looking model. And the other thing that's neat about this is the layer information. If I go over to the layers, you can see the different layers here show up in the CircuitWorks tab. But you can also see the layers here showing up in the actual model. What I usually like to do is to show I like to show the model of the 2012 versus the 2013 version of CircuitWorks, importing them into SOLIDWORks. So I'm going to open up the 2012 so you can see them both at the same time. Alright, so here's the front of the board. The one on the left is the 2012, the one on the right is the 2013. There really isn't much of a comparison here. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and turn off the place keep out. That's shown here right now in blue. And I'll hide that on both components so we can see a little bit better. So I'm just hiding the place keep out. But you can see really there isn't much of a comparison here. So you can see the copper pads, the traces, the vias. So there really isn't much of a comparison. I'll show the back of this here now too. So here's the back of both these models. Here's the back of the models. So you can again see the traces show and the copper pads. So really there is no comparison. So I just wanted to show you how much level of detail you had. Another thing I wanted to show was the layers. So you can see all the layers here. You can see none of that layer information was available in 2012. So that's again really showing the compare and contrast, really showing the deficiencies that 12 had. So 13 that really stepped it up and closed the gap on the information that was missing before. So you can see the layer information there. And now if I expand out the tree, you can see the different planes here. In this case there's 7 different planes. Here's the secondary layer, the power plane, ground plane, and primary. So those are 4 layers here that show with surfaces. They used to use some thin components to show some of the trace functionality. Now you can see they use in this case surfaces to show that. Now the setting that I used was showing all of them complete here. So now if I go back into the options, now this is going to speed this up a little bit. If you don't need to show all that layer information, you can make it only show the top and bottom layers. So now if I change that over, so I'll build the model again. I closed out the assembly. I'm going to build this assembly again with those settings now showing only the top and bottom conductive layer. So I'll build the models again. And this will process this a little bit quicker than the last time showing all the layers. Now CircuitWorks built the assembly. And again, we can see most of the information looks the same here. What you will notice is that when I do go to the layers here, you can see now there's only 3 layers that show in the CircuitWorks tab. Now you see there's a little bit less of the layer information here showing on this view. And I'll open up this part, the PCB board part, in its own window. And again, all the same information came over, except now instead of having 7 different planes, it now has 3 planes. It shows the layers on the primary side, and it shows the layers on the secondary side. So it doesn't show the other layers in here and processes the assembly a little bit quicker. From a side view, you can see the layers a little bit better. Now with the setting, it just shows those 2 conductive layers instead of all 4 of the conductive layers in here. So instead of 4 surfaces, we're down to 2 surface bodies, and we have less plane information in here. So this will speed up the process when you're creating these files in SOLIDWORks. Alright, that's going to do it for this CAD-cast on what's new for CircuitWorks. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Maurice Cherian. Please visit our website at ddicad.com for more CAD-cast and tech tips.